Napoleon was born in Corsica in 1769. He was the son of an attorney, and as a low-ranking noble, he had the opportunity to attend military school in France. Due to his heavy accent and lowly background, it was assumed that he would not amount to much. He became a lieutenant in 1785. He was promoted to captain in 1792, and only 2 years later a brigadier general. He was only 24 years old. 9 years later, he was proclaimed the Emperor of France, thereby ending the French Revolution. Who is the man behind this meteoric rise? Today we look at the rise and fall of Napoleon and his role in history. After the Reign of Terror, the French Revolution had lost its impetus. The government was controlled by the 5 directors, and it was exceedingly unpopular. That could not be said of Napoleon, who was winning victory after victory. He caught the eye of the government due to a riot that had broken out in Paris. He rolled out the cannons and plowed the people with grape shot, saving the National Convention. He, unlike Louis XVI, would not be afraid to use force to gain or consolidate his power. Soon after, he was given a command in Italy and won stunning victories over the Austrians and Italians. He returned a hero and started planning an attack on Britain, the constant threat to France. Unable to attack the island nation, he proposed an invasion of Egypt to cut off Britain from its Asian interests. Though successful on land, he was blocked by the superior British Navy. He returned home to find that he had supporters in a group looking to seize power. In 1799, he joined a coup d'etat to overthrow the government. The new regime had 3 consuls, officers named after leaders in ancient Rome. Napoleon was made a consul, then first consul, then consul for life. The ruse was up in 1804 when he finally determined to formally seize control of the state and to crown himself emperor. The irony is that the revolution in France ended with a more authoritarian government than it started with. So why is Napoleon famous? Well, everybody knows that he was short. In fact, he wasn't short. He measured about 5 feet 7 inches, which is normal for a person of that time. Now, I don't feel too bad for him, though, because hundreds of thousands of people died due to his ambition, which is a far worse thing than being short. But most people forget that aspect of his life. Well, enough about his height. He's famous for 2 important things. His military conquest, which of course is the other thing everybody knows about Napoleon, which we'll review in a few minutes. The other is the establishment of the modern bureaucratic state, which historians see as much more significant than his military conquest, but it's a lot less sexy. To recap, everyone remembers Napoleon was short, which he wasn't. Everyone loves to discuss his military conquest, which only lasted for a short period of time, yet no one seems interested in his changes to the state, which are his enduring legacy. So what did the state look like under Napoleon? Well, first, he was smart in combining the best of the revolution with the best of the old regime. That is, he preserved some of the advancements of the revolution, especially fraternity, a strong sense of brotherhood and equality in the military, especially. He prided himself that all careers were open to talent, thus moving to a meritocracy. He also developed a more equal tax system, which everyone can appreciate. On the other hand, he gave the French people what they were missing during the revolution: order. He ended the chaos and constant shifting of regimes. People were willing to sacrifice some of their freedoms for stability. He also altered the state's relationship with the Catholic Church. But personally not religious, he signed a treaty or concordat with the Church in 1801, thus reestablishing the Catholic Church in France. Being pragmatic, he realized the majority of French people were Catholic, and to rule, he had to make peace with the Church. He also made some significant contributions to the French state. His most famous was a new legal system. Before Napoleon, there were 300 different legal codes in France, which were not universal nor equal, and they were tied to feudalism. He promulgated a new legal system containing 7 legal codes that were universal for all of France. And the most famous, the Civil Law Code, became known as the Napoleonic Code, which outlined rules for marriage, for property, for family, among other things. He created a new structure for the state. He kept the 83 departments created during the French Revolution, but eliminated local representative bodies and replaced them with appointed officials. Thus, he created a large bureaucracy loyal to him, where appointments were based on ability, not birth. To keep the people happy, he relied on the plebiscite, a direct vote by the people. He was admired by the general masses, and therefore the people voted to support him. Subsequently, they felt like they had a say in the government. His style is best summarized by the quote, "Authority from above, confidence from below." In other words, Napoleon ruled the country, but the people supported him. Now let's turn to his military exploits. First, why did he fight endless wars? In part, he inherited the wars from the Revolution, during which foreign monarchs united against the French revolutionaries. And the wars never really stopped until Napoleon was defeated. Second, he wasn't a real monarch, and thus the conquests made him popular and feel legitimate. Lastly, he was ambitious. It's hard to find somebody more ambitious than Napoleon. In these series of wars between France and pretty much everyone else, he revolutionized war. He relied on mass conscript armies, which began during the Revolutionary, but allowed him to field massive armies to battle multiple states at once. He quickly mastered quick movements and excellent communication, allowing for brilliant tactical maneuvers, understood by all to be genius. For nearly a decade, he was wildly successful, and each time the French fought a sizable coalition. The first coalition included Austria, Piedmont, Naples, Prussia, Spain, and Great Britain. The second coalition was composed of Russia, Great Britain, Austria, the Ottoman Empire, Portugal, Naples, and the Papal States. The third coalition was Austria, Russia, Great Britain, Naples, Sicily, and Sweden. The fourth coalition entailed Prussia, Russia, Austria, Sweden, and Great Britain, and the fifth coalition saw Austria and Great Britain fight once again. Each time, he was successful in defeating these huge coalitions on land, but never was able to defeat the British Navy. Nevertheless, reading this list, you can appreciate the skill of Napoleon as a military commander. On the continent, he created a new empire. He increased the size of France and placed other territories under French control, including the Swiss, the Confederation of the Rhine, the Duchy of Warsaw, and the Kingdom of Italy. He installed family members as rulers of Spain, Naples, and Westphalia. Lastly, he forced Prussia, Austria, and Russia into alliances. Among all these states, he created the continental system, which was meant to isolate and destroy Britain, the one nation beyond his control. His great legacy, this is a major point and very important, is that Napoleon spread the ideas of the French Revolution with his conquest. He brought government bureaucracies based on talent. He brought the Napoleonic Code. And even though an emperor, he brought the ideas of democracy and equality. As a result, feudalism and absolute monarchy went into decline in the conquered regions. Though they were revived after Napoleon was defeated, the monarchs were now living on borrowed time. Though successful, he was stretched thin. The British had an excellent navy and controlled trade between Europe and the rest of the world. Many of the subjects in the conquered regions were not thrilled with Napoleon, especially in Spain and Portugal, where the French began to lose some ground. However, his greatest downfall was the invasion of Russia in 1812. He decided to attack Russia because it was not following the continental system, especially the prohibition against trading with the British. He set out with 600,000 men in his most ambitious attack to date, but problems soon arose. The Russians refused to fight, with only one indecisive battle being fought at Borodino. And Napoleon's soldiers, 2/3 of whom were not French, were not enthusiastic about this war. Though Napoleon captured Moscow, he was forced with mass desertion and casualties due to the cold weather and lack of supplies. The Russians refused to surrender, and Napoleon was forced to call for a retreat. Only 27,000 soldiers out of 600,000 made it out of Russia. Napoleon's grand army was destroyed. Napoleon rushed back to France to raise another army. But when he returned to Central Europe, the Russians were joined by Germans, Austrians, British, and Swedes. In the Battle of Nations, Napoleon was defeated and pushed back towards France. Numerous smaller engagements ensued until the Allied forces entered Paris in March 1814. Napoleon was forced to abdicate, and he was exiled to Elba, an island in the Mediterranean, which I think would be a nice place to retire. Come to think of it, I kind of want to be exiled to a Mediterranean island. But Napoleon was not content there. He escaped, returned to Paris triumphantly, and raised another army. He was met by an allied army at Waterloo and was defeated once again by them. This time they inflicted a harsher peace settlement on France and sent Napoleon to the remote island of St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean, where he died 6 years later. Thus completes one of the greatest rises and falls in power in all of human history. So what is the legacy of Napoleon? Was he an enlightened emperor who brought progressive ideas to the rest of Europe? Or was he a crazy, self-centered genius who plunged Europe into a decade of continuous wars and caused the death of hundreds of thousands of people? Probably a little bit of both. His influence, though, is undisputed. His military tactics are still being studied. He's credited with the spreading the ideas of the French Revolution throughout Europe, and he helped create the modern state.